I would
Like,
say
obviously,
on the long term,
obviously,
having,
like
wait, hold on.
if it was any other falsehood, you would have pushed back harder against
The
them.
problem is
And
that
also
religion
another
isn't like a traditional falsehood, though, because some of the claims that religion makes are outside of the boundaries of human knowledge. So it's hard to say whether it's a falsehood or not. Things relating
Like,
to
again,
purpose or
like what?
morality, I think, are like these are fundamentally unknowable or non-existent things. So when you have some other thing that's making those types of claims, it's hard to say that it's false. I don't think there's a truth value. Like I don't think that.
Can you give me one example of something that is purely religious and it's not a false?
I'm not. Hold on. Wait. Okay, hold on. Let's take a step back out of debate mode. Okay, I'm not trying to like. You're a moron. That's impossible.
I learned that Christianity is actually you're born with sin, but this not in Islam. That's not the case. In Islam, if you're a child, you cannot have sin because you're not mature enough to be held responsible for your actions, right?
Yeah.
So you have to hit the age of reason. And again, the specifics of this is different among Muslims, but the way we learned it in school is that the age of reason for boys is 15 and for girls is 9.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant that there's no way for me, there's no way for me to sin before age 15, right? Suicide is a sin in Islam. But then I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, well, suicide can't be a sin if I commit suicide before age 15. So I felt like I found a loophole in the system. I felt like, okay, if I kill myself before age 15, I die without sin, so I can't go to hell, so I end up in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't I just kill myself before age 15 and make sure I don't go to hell?
Yeah.
So to make sure that I got this right, I went to my religious teacher and I'd ask him, why wouldn't I just kill myself to make sure that I don't go to hell? And he said, well, because if you go to heaven because you died as a child, you go to the lowest part of heaven. Because you didn't earn heaven. Yeah. Like apparently heaven has different layers, and the best part is where the martyrs go, and that's where Muhammad is. Mm-hmm. And the lowest part is where people go who died before they were getting the chance to sin. I thought to myself, I don't give a fuck which part of heaven I go to. I just don't want to burn. I could take I could take a parking lot for eternity if that guarantees me not burning. I actually lit a match and I put it on my arm to see how much it hurts.
Yeah.
And then I imagined that like all over my body for 5 minutes. And I like, this is unimaginable pain. I can't tolerate this for 5 minutes. How could I tolerate this for thousands of years? Mm-hmm. So I jumped out of the window in my school. I broke both my legs. I broke my left arm. I fractured my back. I was in a wheelchair and my bed for like 7 months. I missed 1 year of school. The only reason why I didn't try it again is because I saw what it did to my parents. I saw my mom collapse in the ground in the hospital. I saw my dad cry for the first time. Mm-hmm. They blamed themselves because I didn't tell them why I did this. But yeah, and that's why I didn't try it. And when I hit age 15, I was like, shit, I have to play this game now. Yeah, my name is Armin Navabi. I'm the founder of Atheist Republic. If you find the topic boring, we could talk about something else.
No, it's all right. It's just all this Ukraine shit is blowing up today, and I have a feeling we're gonna agree on everything, or maybe not. What do you got for me?
Well, no, I mean I've seen some of the ways you talk about religion. I don't think we're gonna agree on everything. I saw you talking to Taftaj. Mm-hmm. I saw your debate with Daniel Hayraju. And I saw you talking to that what is that, psychometrician? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Not okay. That lady. And it seems like you are just moving away from being, aggressively anti-religion. Yeah. And I just thought that was concerning, and I just wanted to see what's going on and why are you taking that position. But if you want, like, I could be quick about this, and we could go back to Ukraine. I mean, I have a lot of opinions on that as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that. I'm flexible on this, but let me know.
Yeah, go for it. What do you? Okay. Yeah, I'll summarize my position in 2 seconds. Okay, I'm super grumpy today, so if I shout at you, it's not because I hate you. Well, I might grow to hate you, but right now I don't hate you, so I'm just giving you a fair warning. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. I think that there are a lot of aspects to religion. There's a lot of structure that exists in a person's life from religion, and I think that structure is actually really important. The idea that you have like a community that you can orient yourselves around, you have some sort of moral guidance that you get every weekend, that you have some place that you get to go to see members of your community. You might have like other events that flow through that church, like maybe groups and people that you meet. I think that there's a lot of institution that exists there that we got from religion that didn't seem to be replaced, and now people that exist like absent that structure seem to be a little bit lost, and it sucks that we never found a way to replace that structure, or we haven't yet.
So there's your mistake. We didn't get that from religion. Religion hijacked those things. Like we don't religion hijacked those things and try to act like it's the source of it.
We can pretend that religion hijacked it, but if they hijacked it like thousands of years ago, and now that we've lost religion, it seems like we don't have it. So
it doesn't seem like that. I mean, like in countries where atheism is the norm, like that we don't see people having a problem that much with lack of community, lack of purpose. It's only we only see that for a while with people who lose their religion, but people who just grow up without religion, those don't seem to have any issues with that.
Wait, where are these secular countries where nobody has like any of the, and then the
talking
people are
like about I'm talking about mostly the Scandinavian countries where atheism is like more of a norm, like, and these are some of the happiest countries in the world, right? I think like the market provides a lot of opportunities for people finding community. Like people could join, I don't know, chess club, hiking groups. Like there's so many different ways for people to provide communities, right? Without
aren't people in Scandinavian countries getting married like later and later and moving out later and later? Like isn't it like pretty common in like Sweden, say, to find people that are like 28, 29 still living with their parents that haven't like married yet or anything?
Okay, so you were moving now to something else, right? That's so are you accepting that finding community and purpose and meaning, that's not like something that we need religion for? Like without religion,
I never said that we need religion for it. I'm just saying that religion was an easy way for people to plug into all of it, and it doesn't seem like we've done a good job at replacing
religion. Was also the main way people got art, right? Like we got, like, if you like look at Islamic history and Christian history, like we didn't have any artists getting anything done unless there was religion, the church or a mosque or something.
Well, because they had a lot of money, they'd commission for it, I imagine.
Yeah, because everything was like, everybody was swimming in religion. Everything was religion, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, community came from religion. Well, like everything, like when everything is religious, how could you not have things associated with religion, right? Mm-hmm. But like, now that we have art less being, without religion, are we getting less art? Just because we had a history of art coming from religion, now that it's not coming from religion, people just find other ways to get resources to do their art. And I just think it's the same thing with community, sense of purpose, sense of everything that religion claims that, I think this is something that atheists have just bought into. Like religion claims that you need us. Like even if there's no God, you're going to need us. You're going to need us. Like, no, we don't. Like, we're good. Thank you very much.
I'm not saying that we need the religion. I'm saying that we don't seem to have the rituals anymore. Like in the United States, right. What rite of passage do you have?
The way that you get those rituals is by getting rid of religion, and we'll come up with them. You're like, we don't have those rituals, so let's just keep religion around. Like, no, thank you.
Hold on, I'm never saying to keep religion around. Don't misunderstand my position. I'm not saying that we need religion. I'm not saying that we have to bring it back. I'm not saying that it's the only way to get these things. I'm just saying that when religion disappeared, when I grew up and I was in like Catholic communities and I went to church every weekend and all that shit, there was a ton of value there, absent the theology. Like if I ignore the theology, there's a ton of other value there. Now that I've kind of moved past that religion and I look at like a lot of my peers, it doesn't seem like people know where do you go to socialize or how do I find a community, right? If you don't play like video games, you're not doing it on Discord, right? What do? You join a knitting club? Do you try to go to a bar? Like those communities don't seem to exist outside of like school and work.
Well, I agree with you, but you do that while seeming to be giving credit. Okay, even if you don't mean that, you do sound like you're giving credit to religion for providing these things.
Well, yeah, I would give credit to them. If you provide them, it's a good thing. I mean, it's not the best way to do it, but I mean, like, I'll give credit where credit is due, right? I mean, Hitler had a strong army. I'll give him credit for having a strong army for World War II. It doesn't mean I support the Holocaust, right? There's a lot of things for religion I don't support, but
that's a good comparison. But that's a very good comparison. Like, while you're saying that, if you sound like you're celebrating Hitler because of the things that you're giving credit to, then I'm going to have an issue with that, right? So yes, religion, just because obviously it's not going to be everything is going to be 100% negative. Just because the mere fact that religion is involved in everything is going to mean that they're going to be also the source of some positive things. Like they were funding education, they were funding art, they were funding infrastructure, right? But just because there was no other alternative, everything was religious, right?
Sure.
So if I take that and I go be like, okay, look at these, therefore religion not all that bad, well, that would only be true if you could prove, if anybody could show to me that without religion, none of this would happen. And because we know that without religion, all of those things would happen, probably better, probably without a lot of waste, the alternatives would be, like, for example, right now we have a lot of charity that the source of it is religion, right? People are like, oh, so see, religion could do some good things. No, because you have to show to me that without religion, we wouldn't have this much charity. I would argue that without religion, we would have charity, the same or more level of charity without the waste. Without the waste on, I don't know, selling people Jesus or, Muhammad or whatever. So just pointing at the positives and without acknowledging the fact that without religion we would have these positive a lot more efficiently with a lot less waste. It's kind of like your analogy. It's kind of like looking at Hitler and be like, oh, he did some good things. Like, okay, maybe, but why are you saying it like that? Like, I don't. Sounds like you're celebrating.
Wait, so are you just upset that I'm not saying at the same time, like, by the way, guys, I'm not saying we should bring religion back, or I'm not supporting religion. I'm just saying that it would be good to, like, remember.
So you could correct me if I'm wrong. I have this feeling that because of like some cringy, I don't know, Reddit atheist, a lot of people just don't want to be associated with. A lot of atheists just don't want to be associated with that, and because of that, they don't come as hard against the falsehood that is religion as they would do with other things that are false, right? Like we just have this, we just don't want to be that, I don't know, aggressive, angry atheist that a lot of people cringe over. So all of a sudden we're accepting like, oh, religion might be positive, might have a role. Like, oh, it's false, but like, I don't know, it has all these positives. And I feel like we don't do the same kind of, we don't have that, atheists don't have the same level of protective attitude towards other things that are obviously false. But with religion, they're making these excuses, right? Like, I don't know, when you have some of your guests, we have Tafta Ejan, like, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she was arguing, saying some, making some arguments from the role of, for the positive roles of religion in society. You didn't push back against her at all, and I feel like other people who make some defending falsehood, you would have pushed back harder against her. Or that not so erudite lady, she was talking about, like, I don't know, religion might help, conversions might help in people, psychologically with mental illness that will help them. I mean, if we were providing some other, like, encouraging any other form of delusion with this on anybody with mental illness, saying like, oh, maybe the positives are going to be outweighing the negatives, I don't think like any professional would encourage that.
I mean, it depends on, when we're talking about, like, there are a lot of claims that religion make that goes farther than what we can know as people. And for some people, some of those claims might be empowering, and they might help them. So the idea of like, well, what happens in the afterlife, or what is the purpose of existence? Like, these are unanswerable questions by most reasonable people. But if religion can give you an answer that makes you feel better about it, and then it gives you like a material.
They're not unanswerable. They're as unanswerable as other claims that are unfalsifiable, right? Which have the possibility of
that answer
infinity.
is unbelievably unsatisfying. If somebody says, what is the purpose of life? And you go, well, you're kind of asking, what is 1 over infinity? They're going to look at you like, okay, well.
That's not what I would say. Okay, that's what I'm telling you on. That's not what I'm going to tell them, right? I'm gonna tell them that it's a lot more meaningful for every individual to define their meaning and purpose of their life based on their own personality and their own needs, rather than
but that's not how humans work.
One size fit all solution, like, oh, we're here to worship God and we all have the same purpose. We're all going to live forever. Like, obviously, that's like a lot less meaningful. I'm going to show them how much more life is meaningful is when you understand that life is precious because life is finite, and how every second matters more because life is finite. I think that would be a lot more meaningful than.
I don't think a lot of people go through that thought process. I think most people inherit their epistemic and moral values from the people around them, sometimes from their religious institutions. I don't think every single person is capable, or at least not willing, to make this huge existential journey.
I completely agree. But if they're not ready, it's not like we're forcing them to, right?
Well, no, so but in the meantime, rather than existing in this black hole, there's a nihilistic black hole, it's more comforting and easier for them to say, oh, well, hopefully God's got a plan and I'm going to live a good life. And then when I die, maybe I'll go to heaven. And then you just like go through life that way.
Well, okay. So people who are not ready, obviously, they're not going to agree. They're not going to agree with what I have to say, and I'm not forcing anybody. Like, but when it comes to what we can contribute, we could always push for what is truth. Like I hear you saying that you are more that you do what you do because you're interested in what is the truth, right? So why would we have to? So yeah, well, the truth is like there is no evidence for God or religion or all this nonsensical bull crap that people are coming up with, right? So that's what we push for. If the people who are not ready to accept that, it's not like we're telling them like, no, you have to accept what we're saying or else what? Like we don't have a gun on their head. I'm saying like our contribution to people who are ready, like people who would listen to us to telling them that religion is bullshit. There are people who seem to be more ready. Like we're not going to them; they're coming to us to see what they have to say.
Yeah, my
so
goal.
People who are not ready. Yeah,
I'm not trying to convert people to atheists. So if I'm having a religious debate, then I might. If I'm having I think I had one with a professor a while ago, like a more structured debate on like religion, then I'll be more pushing in that direction. But otherwise, I'm just not interested in like my goal isn't to proselytize every time I have a conversation or religion comes up. Like my goal generally when I look at different things is what value exists in this area? Why does this thing exist as it does? Oh, well, maybe there's some value we can extract there and tell other people about. So when I look at religion and people are quick to shut on religion, they're like, well, hey, look, there's actually some pretty cool things that are part of religion. Maybe you should consider some of these things.
There's
and maybe
nothing from religion that is cool that couldn't be provided with alternatives that are less damaging.
Yeah, that's the whole point of what I'm saying. Wait, that's the whole point of what I'm saying, though. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of rituals, there's a lot of stuff that exists and have existed for millennia within like the traditions and structures of religion. Why not incorporate some of that into your life? You don't have to be religious. You don't have to take the theology on, but a lot of the structure there probably has some value. There's a reason why religion has persisted throughout like probably most of human history.
This is why we encourage a lot of people who are not ready to give up on all of that, is that you don't have to give up on all of that if you lose the belief, because the belief is the harmful part. You could keep going to the church if you like going to church. You could keep going to Eid. You could keep going to the mosque. You could even pray. You could do but the belief is the harmful part. Like you could still consider yourself a cultural Christian or a cultural Muslim, because when you say cultural Muslim or cultural Christian, it means that you don't actually believe in this. Like we have that in the Jewish community a lot. And there's a lot of, we have rabbis who are atheists, right? Like they're completely doing all their like rituals and everything because they just like it and enjoy it and they relate to the tradition. But they just like, when it comes to belief, they're full on atheists. So if we introduce more people that you could continue doing everything that you find fun or meaningful when it comes to the rituals or practices, as long as like, but also encourage them to not believe in the actual claims. I think when you're talking about value, I think that's a valuable thing to offer, because I think you agree with me that the more our beliefs are closer to reality, the better that is for the individual and also for the society. Do you agree that if on average more beliefs are based on what reflects what reality, closer to what reality is that not a net positive for the world?
Not all the time. It just depends on it super depends on the context of the person. What?
On average, net basis.
I would say on the long term, I'd say on the long term, having more people having views that comport with what I think is true, so being religious, I think is probably a good thing. I don't know 100%, but I would say it's probably a good thing. Yeah, that's why when I talk to people, I would encourage people to be atheists. If somebody wants to have a religious debate, we can have a religious debate. But like generally, my goal isn't to convert. It's just not. That's a huge conversation that most people aren't going to be receptive to, and it's just not what I'm. Yeah.
I'm not always like here's the thing. Like I'm not always going to try to, like, for example, if I'm talking to a Muslim, okay, and we're talking about what the situation of Muslims in China, okay, I'm not going to, and she's talking about that and she's pushing against the CCP, I will join with her and push against CCP. I'm not going to be like, wait a second, you're a Muslim, I'm going to talk to you about Islam and why Islam is false. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I'm not always going to do that, right? But if somebody talks about the utility of religion and the benefits of it, that is a good time to also be like, well, hold on, there are better ways to do this. And I think like you haven't been doing that. Like, I'm not saying like convert everybody to atheists at every chance that you get, but when Not So Erudite and Taftaj, when they were there and they were talking to you about the utility of religion, I feel like if it was any other falsehood, you would have pushed back harder against them.
The problem is
And
that
also
religion
another-
isn't like a traditional falsehood, though, because some of the claims that religion makes are outside of the boundaries of human knowledge. So it's hard to say whether it's a falsehood or not. Things relating
Like,
to
again-
purpose or
what?
morality, I think, are like these are fundamentally unknowable or non-existent things. So when you have some other thing that's making those types of claims, it's hard to say that it's false. I don't think there's a truth value. Like I don't think that.
Can you give me one example of something that is purely religious and it's not a false? Can you give me an example?
like purpose for existing. Why do we exist?
Okay, so you're just purpose for existing, that's just a made up word, and so we could make it up as we decide, right? So
Yeah,
my
free
purpose
will
could
is
be
also
different from
made
yours.
up, but we still act like we have it. Right? That's not
Yeah.
a satisfying answer to
And
tell
that's-
people that like, oh, well, you don't
Okay.
really have free will. Like same thing
I'm
with
not
purpose in
telling
life.
them. I'm not telling them. I'm telling you. Obviously, I would have talked to them differently. I'm just saying when I say something is made up, I'm not devaluing it. A lot of things are made up and they're really good. Contracts are made up. Like our rights are made up. I'm not saying like I'm not dismissing them just because they're made up. Right? The idea of a purpose is also made up, but I'm not saying like it's meaningless. Okay? But because it's made up, we could all define it in a way that.
But that's not, people don't feel like that. People don't like a purpose that's made up. The idea of a purpose is that it exists external to your own evaluation. That's the whole reason why people want a
doesn't
purpose.
exist. You know that doesn't exist.
I don't think it exists, but that's unsatisfying for a lot of people. I don't think most people are satisfied with that answer.
You're changing what your claim. You're changing the claim. We weren't talking about whether it's satisfying or unsatisfying. You're talking about religion making a claim that we cannot prove that it's false. You just accepted that the idea of a purpose is a made-up word. So them claiming that is false. Them saying this is what a purpose is, and it's independent from time and space, and it's hard-coded within the fabric of the universe. You know that's a false claim.
Well, no, okay, hold on. If you want to be
be
more specific with my language, I wouldn't say that that's a false claim. I would say that that's an unknowable claim, because purpose, whatever they're talking about here, is something that's immaterial. It doesn't exist in the material universe. I can't observe it, test it, look at it. So I would say that's an unknowable thing, and I think that religion gives you a lot of.
How is it unknowable? We know a concept of a purpose.
No,
is a
you don't.
man-made
Absolutely, there might be an immaterial concept of purpose, like a design for how humans. That might be a thing that we just can't perceive.
That might be a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're basically introducing the concept of like a dragon in the garage or the teapot, or Russell's teapot. You know what I'm referring to?
Yep.
Yeah, there might be so many things. Okay, but but it's unfalsifiable. So what's even the point of talking about it?
The point is that there are unknowable things, an unfalsifiable thing that people draw a great deal of meaning from, and it influences their material life. And to just tell somebody, oh, well, we can't prove that, so move on from it. Well, a lot of people really feel like they need that purpose, or they like that purpose.
Okay, well, I think it's progress when societies move forward to getting meaning and community and a sense of purpose from things that exist. That is progress. I'm not going to push people towards that, but I'm going to invite them towards that, and I think that would be beneficial for us to move away from things that are just made up and don't exist for people to get their meanings from. And like as you said, you don't think that's the only source. But again, we're moving away from saying like you're switching your claim. You're claiming that religion says things that are not false. I think like making claims that are unfalsifiable is basically the closest thing to making false claims. Right?
But they're fundamentally different.
But then,
an immaterial claim is not a false claim. It's an unknowable claim. It's an unfalsifiable claim. It's fundamentally different than a false claim.
That's not very special. Okay, the Big Bang came out of the fart of a giant turtle. Okay, you can't prove that that's
but there's no meaning from that. God created the universe and gave us all purpose in life.
So you're
that does
your
have
claim
meaning.
now.
Yeah. I'm not. Hold on. Wait. Okay, hold on. Let's take a step back out of debate mode. Okay, I'm not trying to this is the claim. Okay, what I'm saying fundamentally, is that religion makes claims about things that exist outside of what we both agree is the boundary of human knowledge. Okay, when religious people want to talk about how Jesus was resurrected in 3 days, all full stops are you're a moron. That's impossible. Or when they want to claim miracles or whatever, well, probably a doctor, right? But the problem is that it's easy to shit on those types of religious claims, and I will all day. But then when people say things like, I think there's a moral fabric to the universe. I think that morality comes from God or is dictated by God. Or I think that we have a purpose in life, or there are things that happen after we die. These are things that I feel like we can never know because these are immaterial things. They're beyond our observation. They're unfalsifiable. And if somebody can go to the unfalsifiable and draw meaning or purpose and give that to them in their life, and then that lets them live their life in a better way, it's hard for me to say as an atheist, listen, bro, you just got to dump all that shit and figure it out on your own. Because I think for a lot of people, it's a really tall order. It's really difficult to do. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but that's a very dangerous door to open because there are infinite number of unfalsifiable claims that one could make that nobody could prove that it's wrong, right? You agree there's infinite numbers of that, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're saying that, okay, so let's say there are a set of unfalsifiable claims that nobody's getting anything meaning from, sorry. But then you're saying as soon as we have a claim that is unfalsifiable, but there's no proof that is real and there's no proof that is wrong. But as soon as somebody is getting meaning from it, all of a sudden you're taking that unfalsifiable claim and elevating it and seeing that there's a value from it just because they're getting some meaning from it.
Sure. People do this in poker with Lucky Charms. People do it for athletes where they do like a dumb ritual. Or like, I won't play games if it's raining the day before or some shit. Like people do this shit all the time. I think it's stupid.
But that's
personally.
encourage.
This has existed for all of for the 10,000 years of human history. We've done this, so it seems like for a lot of people, there's a lot of value there for it.
So does slavery. That's not like I'm just saying like just because something existed for a very long time, and it's also doesn't mean that it's a good thing. Obviously, it would be better if people didn't think like that. Obviously, it would be better if people grounded their opinions and views based on evidence and logical analysis of things. I'm not delusional in thinking that it's gonna everybody's gonna be like that. I don't even think the vast majority of people are going to be like that, right? But it would be if you could go from 2% of the population being like that to 10%, that's an improvement for everybody, including the people who don't think like that, right? So if you could encourage people to find other ways to find meaningful in their life, to find meaning in their life and find purpose and find community, I think that would be a net positive for them and society as a whole. And I don't know how anybody could deny that.
I wouldn't deny that. I would agree with that wholesale. That's why when I talk about religion and I say there's a lot of value there, I hope that people can pull these out into more secular institutions. So having like an 18-year-old birthday party for atheists that are like, hey, cool, you're an adult now. Like we're going to throw a special party for you, blah, blah, blah. In Catholicism, we call this... I think it's confirmation. In Judaism, they have like is it the bar mitzvah when you become an adult? It seems like all these religious institutions or culturally have these like rites of passage. You hit a certain age, you do a certain thing or whatever. That these are things that largely don't seem to exist in America as a secular institution. These have all been taken over by religious institutions.
That's why I want to make it even easier. I want to say I want to encourage to even do it with the religious branding. Right? I'm just saying, you don't even have to move out of the religious branding. You could still go to church as an atheist. You could still do bar mitzvah as an atheist. You could still, do an Eid ceremony as a former Muslim as an atheist. Just because you just relate, there's just so much nostalgia and you relate to it, just keep doing it, okay? There's no problem. As long as, the belief part, I don't have a problem with the rituals. I have a problem with the belief part, okay?
Sure, I'm the exact same thing, but I think I've said literally verbatim before that, I hate the theology, but the religion is really good. The structure is good, the theology is garbage, yeah.
I know we agree on this. I just think, when you have people on and they're, promoting, suggesting that religion has this value, and I want you to tell them that. You just told me that you agree that a secularized version of these things would be better, right? So if you have Taftaj or not so erudite back on next time, and they're telling you, oh, religion has this value or that value, I just think if there were some other, I don't know, if there was a tanky or something, if they were saying some other form of promoting some other thing that you agree that is bullshit, like you do with religion, I think you would just push harder. I just think atheists still have a soft spot for religion and they don't push hard back enough. I just encourage you to do that. Also, I also think atheists don't see each other as worthy of defending when it comes to their human rights as much, because I noticed when you had Daniel Hayraju, you debated with Daniel Hayraju. You remember that guy? The fundamentalist? Okay. So I noticed during that debate, by the way, you did really good in that debate, okay? Everything was really good, except one part that really made me upset, because I noticed it, I think, more than most people, because it's my job to be sensitive about this, is that when the guy said, admitted to you that under his Islamic ruling, that he likes, he would endorse, atheists would be annihilated under that regime, okay? But then you said, what about Christians? And then he started talking, well, no, Christians will be protected because under Islamic law, Christians are Ahlul Kitab, so they have a specific, Christians and Jews, they would have to pay higher tax than Muslims, but they would be a protected class. They wouldn't be killed, okay? Unless they were Muslim and now they're Christian, then they would be killed. But if they were born Christian, that's fine. And they can advocate for Islam. They can't have churches that are higher than mosques. There's specific rules, but other than that, they're protected. Okay. But then you were like jumping on him, like, no. What about Christians? Like Christians are like being attacked by Muslims. Do you deny that? But he already admitted to you that atheists would be eliminated. Like atheists are okay. So I want to be careful not to participate in oppression in Olympics, okay? But I think it's a fact that atheists are one of the most discriminated group in the world, okay? There's no other group of people. I'm happy to be corrected about this because I know a lot of people are very much interested in participating in oppression in Olympics. But I mean, there's no other minority group that is like their mere existence is punishable by death in 13 countries, okay? Like atheism is considered a terrorist act, like not just being an atheist, not like doing anything, just being an atheist in Saudi Arabia was considered terrorism, okay? Like there's no other minority group there that your mere existence is an act of terror, okay? So, and I just think like nobody gives a crap about atheists, including atheists, right? Like there was a study done by University of British Columbia that showed that atheists are the least trusted group even in United States and Canada, okay? Including by other atheists. And I just think like, can you tell me like why, like I think you just didn't notice it, so I don't want to be too hard on you, but I just feel like I was like very upset to see like you're an atheist, but even as an atheist, you didn't really feel the need to be like, oh my, okay, so you're admitting to me that atheists will be eliminated in your regime. You went and started talking about what happens to Christian under an Islamic regime. You see how that's kind of...
Because I think there's been a history of Christian oppression under Islamic regimes. If there has been for atheists, I don't think it's been as talked about. So it was easier to appeal historically to like large swaths of Christians suffering under Muslim majority countries.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm trying to change. It's people, it's not as talked about because nobody cares about atheists.
Well, it's not as talked about, yeah, because probably for that reason, but also probably because atheists are much, much, much smaller populations, right?
Well, okay, I can tell you, like in one of the world's theocracies, which is like Islamic Republic of Iran, right? Mm-hmm. There are churches, and Christians live there, okay? And Christians go to church on Sundays, but you announcing in Iran that you're an atheist, that's punishable by death, okay? So just be like, oh, I'm an atheist. Okay, then you die. Okay, there was a teacher in Iran who just merely said that I don't think Prophet Jonah was swallowed by a fish, okay? Teacher. And he was executed. He had a child, okay? No, he didn't say fuck Muhammad. He didn't say fuck Islam. He didn't say Islam is wrong. He didn't say there's no God. He just said Prophet Jonah was probably not swallowed by a goddamn fish. And he was executed for that, okay? So, yeah, being ex-Muslim, leaving religion, being an atheist, that is not... Again, by the way, I'm not saying we shouldn't care about Christians. Obviously, we should care about Christians. We should care about Muslims as well. We should care about Hindus. You know, a lot of our advocacy has been protecting Muslims in India and in China. By the way, you might want to pay attention to India because the greatest rise of far-right nationalism is right now happening in India. So, which is making us... we're very much against Islam, but we're for Muslims because we're humanists. So something your audience might be interested in. Like, you guys here consider yourself leftist, right?
Methodists?
Like, leftists.
Oh,
right?
leftists? Yeah, maybe
People
kind of
here?
a little bit, yeah.
I think like the world should worry. Like I think like if the rise of the far right nationalism was happening to the same extent that it's happening in India, if it was happening anywhere, even 1/1000th of that was happening in United States, Canada, or Europe, Western Europe, people would be like, it would be front news, like it would be on the headlines every day. But nobody gives a crap when it's happening in the second most populated country in the world, and like the level of oppression of Muslims that is happening in India is like, it's unbelievable, and nobody seems to be paying attention to that. So something I want to encourage more people to be aware of, like especially if people are sensitive about the rise of the far right. Anyway,
I'll keep it in mind. Okay.